Good evening. Welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this evening. It's awfully echoey. This evening. And how are you doing this evening? Let me just sort that out. There we go. That's all good. Going to talk about the fact that Martin O'Neill has been on a scouting mission for players for next season. Martin O'Neill was down in Lancashire, and him and Mark Fotheringham decided to watch a couple of players. Could they be watching a few players? And we're going to look at the two players that we think that they were looking at, according to the media down in Lancashire, and also Kelechi Iheanacho. He has the option of a 1-year extension to his contract. Kelechi Iheanacho is obviously a player that's been out injured a lot this season, and he's been speaking about his the fact that the season hasn't went the way that he thought it would go. He scored 4 goals in 14 appearances for Celtic. Is that really a great return for the money that he will be getting paid as a player? And would you give Kelechi Iheanacho a new contract in the summer? Shouldn't that be left to the next manager to decide? And the other player that we have on loan, who started the game yesterday, Big Tam, the Czech. He has scored only the 2 goals for Celtic since he come in. He's played 10 games, 3 as a substitute. It's an interesting one. I definitely think that I wouldn't spend the money on Tam the Czech. It's it's an interesting one, isn't it? Anyway, there is another player that has been linked with Celtic, and Celtic were in talks with, and in the last transfer window, a young player from Hibernian. He has played this season. He's played 24 games, 7 as subs, and he has scored 2 goals this season. He's an interesting one, especially the position that he does play in. Makes you wonder what Celtic are thinking about for next season. I mean, he's a decent young player at Hibs, but where would he fit in to this Celtic team? And obviously, there's going to be massive changes. Let's look at the 2 players that Martin O'Neill was first looking at. Well, there's a couple of players being linked. John McCracken from Wishaw, the Dundee goalkeeper. He's out of contract at the end of this season. He is out of contract, McCracken, and Celtic have been in talks with the goalkeeper, and it's been suggested that they're going to try and get him on a freedom of contract in the summer. Celtic do have Sinisalo in goals, and we have Ross Dohan, who's older and a bit more experienced, and experienced, I mean, game-wise, the amount of games that he's played, than Sinisalo. And he would be thinking that he's going to fight for that number 1 jersey next year. But we're bringing in the young lad from Dundee. He's not really young, is he? He's 25-year-old. And he's a decent keeper. He is a decent goalkeeper. Would it be prudent for Celtic to bring in this goalkeeper? Because it's another Scottish contingent. It's another Scottish player. You can see where Celtic are kind of going this summer, aren't they? I mean, a lot of people have been saying that we need to start sort of ranking up buying the best Scottish talent that there is there. He's valued at 500 grand. He's out of contract at the end of this summer. Celtic did get Ross Dohan last summer when he was under freedom of contract from Aberdeen. So it's interesting. And an interesting one that Martin O'Neill did go down here. Now, let's look at one of the players that Martin O'Neill was looking at. And his name is Alfie Sean Devine, and he can play central midfield. He can play as a second striker, and he can play as an attacking midfield player. He's currently at Preston North End. On loan from Tottenham Hotspur, and he's valued at around about £6 million. He could be an interesting addition. To come to Celtic, especially when you look at his age. He's only 21-year-old. You know, it's going down. We seem to be going down the road of players in that price bracket again, but could this be Celtic actually thinking about the future and trying to get players that are going to come in for 3 or 4 years? It's an interesting way of looking at it. He's currently valued at £6 million, about the same as what we paid for Cameron Carter-Vickers, who at his time at Tottenham Hotspur was also loaned out. And there's another player that came through the ranks of Tottenham Hotspur that plays for Ireland, and he's a goal-scoring machine. And we didn't manage to get him. But the interesting thing is he does have the agent as a CAA base. And that is a company that Celtic have worked with quite a few times over the years. Let's see if that will open up. See some of the players that they've got. Yeah. Quite a few money's worth in there, isn't there? Quite a few money's worth. Another player that Martin O'Neill could have been looking at is Lewis Dobbin. And he is a left winger. He can play as a left winger, a right winger, or a second striker. Now, remember, in the summer, we will be losing Daisen Maeda, and we will lose quite a few other players in and around that front. So you could see where Celtic are going with this one again. He's 23-year-old. He is on loan also to Preston North End from his club Aston Villa, and he's currently got a valuation around about £4 million. So say Celtic were to go for those two players alone, that would mean that Celtic would be spending in the region of £10 million straight off on two players. So it gives you an indication of how much money Celtic must be looking at spending in the next transfer window. We've said that Celtic will need to spend in the region of 30-40 million just to get us back to where we were. Are these players good enough, though? You know, coming in from Preston North End, Martin O'Neill and Mark Fotheringham went down to have a look at them. So it is interesting that Martin O'Neill could be looking at those type of players. But what else does that tell us? If Martin O'Neill was looking at players that could potentially be coming in the summer, has Martin O'Neill really had a conversation or not about the fact? I mean, why would Martin O'Neill go to all the trouble of driving away down to Preston? I mean, it's not too far over the border. It's only about 2.5 hour drive from Glasgow. So it's not too far. But why would Martin O'Neill and Mark Fotheringham drive all that way down to have a look at two players if Celtic weren't really interested? Now, what does it tell us about going forward next season? Could Martin O'Neill be ready to take a position upstairs? Is that something that has been spoken about? And Martin O'Neill, the sly old fox that he is, and Martin O'Neill just saying, you know, we'll just string the media along, because Martin O'Neill's not going to tell us exactly what's going along. Helen comes straight out and says Martin O'Neill looking at players should not be the new manager's job. There is a lot of speculation that Martin O'Neill is going to work as some kind of recruitment scout for Celtic, to scout out players, to have a look at players. I think the issue that Celtic have, and it's not just a Celtic thing, it's a modern football thing, but I think the big issue that Celtic have is the scouting network is absolutely garbage. And I think that we could all agree on that. The players that have been brought in have been driven dating. They've all been driven by data, and they've been bought on pure data. I mean, did anybody really go and look at the transfer of Michelangelo Balikwisha? Did anybody go and see him in person, or was it all about driven data? Wilson says O'Neill and Maloney are responsible for the January window signings. Is it the fact that Martin O'Neill isn't happy with the way that the January signings is? I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Is it the fact that Martin O'Neill had a list of players, and the powers that be said, well, we can't afford them, we can get these players in for you, that'll have to do. And Martin O'Neill went, well, I've not seen those players in action. I have not scouted those players. Our scouts haven't scouted them. All we can go on is data-driven analysis of these players to fit a position. We don't know if they're going to be good enough for Celtic. Maybe that this is the background, things going on in the background of the club to change the way that the football. I don't know. There's maybe a bit of truth that Martin O'Neill's coming in as a director of football type position. There is maybe a bit of truth about that rumour. But anyway, when are the Green Brigade back? Allegedly, they're back next week, but don't quote me on that. That's just what was said at the last Celtic meeting. But anyway, moving on from, he looks like an interesting player actually. Although his valuation has rocketed since he went to Preston on loan. I still think that you'll probably get him for 2.5 million. I mean, that is shown in euros, but I think that the 4 million is probably just on how good he's been playing at Preston. Came through the system at Everton youth. Been to West Brom, Aston Villa, Norwich on loan, back to Aston Villa, and then out to Preston. Interesting. Very interesting to say the least. Right, let's jump off of this screen and jump back up to that one. And there's the Hibs player that we've been looking at also. It does make you wonder, though, why Martin O'Neill would be looking at players if he's not going to be here in the summer. You know, if he's not going to be here after the end of April, why is he even bothering? You know, because surely the current manager would only be looking at players for next season if he was going to be in a position within the organisation to go, I've had a look at this player. That ultimately the decision is the manager's, but I've had a look at these players in person, and I think that they could suit the way that the Celtic want to play football under your stewardship, of course. And maybe that's the way that Celtic are going. Maybe because of the absolute shit show with Lawwell Jr. at the club, and the way that the club signings have been done previously. Do you know, maybe the next manager coming in would love someone like Martin O'Neill, because if you've got someone like Martin O'Neill going and watching a player, that's proper old school. Do you know, that is proper old school stuff, and that when you get that kind of information, and that seems to be what's wrong at Celtic. I mean, we were meant to be bringing in all sorts of people. I mean, even remember back in the day, Lubo was meant to be a scout for us. Nothing ever happened with that. I don't know. I think Celtic come out and publicly say things, and it's come back to bite them on the bum, big time. And maybe if Martin O'Neill isn't going to be on the board, he is going to be there on an advisory basis to the board and to the next manager. Do you know, maybe he'll be the kind of guy that Martin, we're looking at this player. Could you go and watch him? Type thing. You never know. Maybe Fozzie will be in that somehow as well. I mean, I know that we're looking at the current players that came in the last transfer window, and there's Sean Maloney's and Mark Fotheringham and Martin O'Neill's choices. But realistically, for Martin O'Neill to come out and say, just even, I think David Plight, he left with Brendan Rodgers. I think he left with Brendan Rodgers. I don't even think he did anything for Celtic, to be honest. You want someone that I think that the Celtic board would want someone that they trust in that position, and especially with the shit. I think looking at it, I think Celtic have been ill advised when it comes to players and players' potential over the last 2 years, to say the least. And I think it's we can only hope it's good going forward. He had more pressing issues that he could not iron out in terms. So does Martin O'Neill move upstairs? Maloney and following maybe Brown get the job if we win the double. Is that a realistic possibility? No, not at all. I can't see Scott Brown being Celtic captain, and not after he's just been sacked. I don't know. You would. I don't see that at all. David Pleat's Honda Civic is still in the car park. Yeah, I think that there's more chance of that. Obviously, we do not know who the next manager will be, but it does say to me that some kind of talks must have taken place somewhere with potential candidates. And Martin O'Neill, we know that Martin O'Neill's a coy old fella, don't we? We know that he'll turn around and say, look, people, they don't tell me anything. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Don't know, but it is all just speculation purely at this point. Baz says Jim Lister. Maybe it's because the next manager coming in is Stevie Clark, and he will be dealing with World Cup stuff, and he has agreed for Martin O'Neill to oversee things and signings, and he will be upstairs. Nah, I don't think it's that, mate. I don't think it's that at all. Celtic captain Brown back playing, Baz. Brown back playing. Not all Celtic captains make it as Celtic managers. Me and my pals got specialised Adidas t-shirts for doing their gardening. Brown t-shirts. Nichols now, O'Neill in. I don't think that Martin O'Neill will be the man that will run the top of the organisation. I think that he will be brought in. This has got, I'm sorry, but we need to stop and think here. This has got Dermot Desmond written all over it, hasn't it? It's got Dermot Desmond sticky paws written all over it. For Martin O'Neill to come out and say, that he hasn't spoken to Nicholson, that's a very easy flippant comment to make, because he never spoke to Nicholson when he came into the job. He spoke to Dermot Desmond. So it'd be very easy for the media to go, have you spoke to Nicholson? And Martin O'Neill will go, no, I've not spoken to Nicholson. Have you had a conversation with Nicholson or that about if you might be here in any capacity next year? No, I've never spoken with Nicholson. So he's not really lying. But at the end of the day, it would be absolutely nothing to do with Nicholson. This would all be Dermot Desmond's doing. And if it does happen, it's once again, it's Dermot Desmond having far too much say, and it tells me that Dermot Desmond's already made up his mind who the next manager will be, and it will not be Stevie Clark. There we go. It will not be Stevie Clark. What it does say to me is it could be one of the contenders that has already been spoken about, and that will respect the fact that Martin O'Neill is in the building. So you never know. You never know. I wouldn't offer a contract to Big Tam or any actual. Let's get back to that one. Big Tam the Czech. Tam the Czech, who has come into Celtic on loan from Borussia Mönchengladbach. I mean, even looking at Big Tam's scoring, I don't know, he's not a striker, is he? I mean, they say he's a forward, but I don't think he's an out-and-out striker. There's nothing to say with those stats that he's an out-and-out striker. Well, you never know. But then the one that is an out-and-out striker, Iniacho, Kells, as he was known to the previous manager. Um, I mean, even he's not been a prolific goal scorer. I mean, he may be a good addition to keep around within the squad going through a year of change. I mean, Celtic have the option to give him another year's contract if it is deemed suitable. But really, looking at these previous stats, you know, Middlesbrough scored a couple of goals. He scored one goal at Middlesbrough, three in Seville, and they couldn't wait to get rid of him. You know, Leicester, 6 goals. Leicester, 8 goals. Leicester, 7 goals. I mean, that's not prolific stuff, is it? But he's better than what we've got. Could it be? I mean, would if it comes down to it, and we know the way that Celtic do things, and they're very if they can't, if Kelechi Iheanacho is say first choice striker, and then the player that would be our second, and I've not got him on here. Let me just see. Premiership. Hmm. Let me just see if I can get Callum's stats up because he was brought in as a youth player. I mean, we all know that he was brought in for a certain youth player that left Celtic. There we go. Callum Osmond. What if Kelechi Iheanacho is to be sort of the main striker, and then Callum Osmond, who's 20-year-old, you know, should be starting to make a name for himself. He was starting to come into a good game, scored against Rangers. Um, could it be the fact that he could be the next sort of big thing to come through at Celtic? Your big fear for Callum Osmond is that he comes in and he has a couple of good seasons. Say Callum Osmond comes in and he does a Kyogo Furiashi and he scores 15 goals in a season, 20 goals in a season. Does that for 2 seasons in a row. You then get a lot of English clubs coming in and wanting to buy Callum Osmond. Do you know, and when you look at him as a player, he would have, you've got to say that he would have aspirations to play at a higher level. So the young lad from Jersey who could potentially play for England someday, he will have the same aspirations as other Celtic players, other Celtic strikers that have came in and done well and think that they could go down south and kick on down there. Now the fact that he came through the academy at Fulham, Celtic managed to steal him away from Fulham. He will be thinking, do you know, if he can do it a couple of seasons at Celtic, Celtic will say, well, you will be sold. It's the way that we do business, isn't it? It's just Celtic all over. So it could be the fact that maybe Kelechi Iheanacho could stay at Celtic, and next season you could see Callum Osmond having more of an impact. Cheers to Danny Cassie for that super chat. When Big Tam was brought in, I thought he would have been used as an old-fashioned centre forward. Well, he kind of is a centre forward, but he doesn't play the position well. A season or two at Parrot before he heads back to the Premiership. Lads on fire. There is no way that we could afford Parrot now. He's gone to the Premiership if anything. There is no, we missed the boat on that one. Why we didn't get him at the same time, because he came through the system at Spurs with Cameron Carter Vickers. So if we knew about Cameron Carter Vickers in and around the reserve setup at Spurs at that time, surely we would have known about Parrott. It's a weird one. Unfortunately, it looks like a lot of our players are better as subs. Motherwell will be the next manager for Celtic. All good players come at a price. Yes, they do. Whole new frontline next season is required. Well, that could be the case, especially if you bring in the likes of Lewis Dobbin, who Martin O'Neill, it's been suggested that this is one of the players that Martin O'Neill was looking at the weekend. Playing down at Preston North End. There's the two players that people are thinking that, well, it's either one of these, could be both the players, or it could be one. I think it's probably more. There's more chance of it being Lewis Dobbin because of the positions that he plays compared to. But you never know. A younger player in midfield, a younger, hungrier player, and Alfie Sean Devine. He could play as a second striker. He plays an attacking midfield. It's a position that we need someone. We're going to lose Rio Hitati this summer. So you're thinking maybe Martin O'Neill is down looking at both those players. His valuation's rocketed since he went to Preston North End also from Spurs. It's now saying that it's worth $6 million. I don't think so. You probably get them for, even if we get them for $4 million, if we get both players for say between 6 and 8 million. You know the way that Celtic will do things. They'll take both players on loan next season with the option to buy, the same as they did with Cameron Carter-Vickers, and then you'll get the whole fan base complaining that we're bringing in players on loan rather than just buying them. But you never know. It's going to be an interesting one going into this summer. Let's go back up here. Let's jump into some more of the comments. Baz TV, Subastraya, and a big fat gelato something. Brilliant night, Baz. Talk sense. Thank you, David. Jose Mourinho rated Troy Parrott very highly. Talking about Adamu Mavuka wouldn't get into the over 60s walking team. That's disrespectful. I know an over 60. No, I don't actually. I've seen them advertised. You get them out here, like old geezers walking football. The missus has said to me, "Go try it," and I'm like, "Fucking way too young for that. I'd be running rings round the old boys. You'd get these old Costa del Sol gangsters want to take me out playing their walking football. Get that wee baldy." Oh man, walking football. I was still going for Braga from Hearts. I don't think so. I don't think Hearts would sell them, but we'll be sent. We've been losing Rio for 3 years. Surely this has to be the last year of Rio. He's coming into the last year of his contract, along with Dice and Maeda. I mean, surely it's time. Dyson, Rio took the hump, remember? Rio was almost sold last summer as well. We need at least to sign at least 2 strikers in the summer. Oh, I would rather Jack Jarvis up front than Tam. Troy Parrott will score goals like he has done in Holland for the last 2 years. We're not getting Troy Parrott. There is no way that we will be able to afford Troy Parrott. He's going to go for big money in the summer. As much as we would have liked it, our chance to get Troy Parrott was at the same time when we got Cameron Carter-Vickers from Tottenham, because he was at Tottenham at the same time. He was getting loaned out at the same time and he was scoring goals. But anyway, our defence likes to play walking football. Definitely 100%. Rio hasn't got the minerals. I'd sign or game over. Anyway, that's the big news tonight. Is Martin O'Neill was down at Preston North End. Do you feel like Parrott repeating, or your point on Parrott? The amount of people that keep on saying, Rab, Parrott's coming, Parrott, get Parrott, get Parrott, get Parrott. Jesus. I think people just say it just to get me repeating things. Anyway, that has been done and dusted for the night. Thank you to everyone who has been online this evening. It's a Monday night. It's going to be an interesting week because Celtic are going to increase season ticket prices. Are you prepared for that? And actually, where is it? Let me just do this because we're going to do a comparison, and this one. Obviously, you're going to compare clubs that are up there, and I'm going to compare the season ticket prices at two particular clubs. And the first one, because obviously Celtic are going to increase their season ticket prices. It looks like Celtic are going to increase the season ticket prices to around about £700. But first of all, I'm going to look at Hibs season ticket prices. For the third year in a row, Hibs will freeze the season ticket prices, starting from £375 for the cheapest ticket, a child ticket from £70. Celtic tickets for kids still £50. Be interesting to know. Working out for under £4 per match for tickets. We are also offering a special discount of 25% to young supporters who are graduating from the Hibs Kid membership. That means all your previous Hibs Kids members who are turning 13 and currently do not hold an under. Who cares? Anyway, their tickets are priced at around about 300 and 430. Season ticket deadline. So where is, you can actually go on, and one of the things I was actually looking, you go onto their site, and the Hibs site, come on, Jesus, it's slowing it, accept, they've actually sold out the majority, or let's see the East Stand, I don't know, that's no way, 44, I don't know where their ultras sit. Oh, they used to, didn't they? Oh, there's only 3 seats. 395. There's a block of seats together. 375. Holy moly. Let me see behind the goal. What they got behind the goal? Let's get down the front. 395 for an adult. That's the Hibs. Right, let's look at Hearts. Those Jambos. 570. 570 for a Hearts season ticket. And Celtic are going to be paying around about 700. Interesting. No, mate, I got sunburnt today. Bernard McLaughlin, have you had your blood pressure? Your face is red. No, I was out in the sun all day today, and it was 25 degrees, and nobody told me it was going to be that hot. So yeah, I caught a bit of the sun today. It'll die down tomorrow. Don't worry about it. And it's this light. It's terrible. Anyway, Celtic are on about saying Aaron Busher from Carmen, but we'll wait and see on that. Anyway, that has been done and dusted for this evening. It's well, you've had freezing cold weather and snow yesterday. I was out in my shorts and t-shirt, and it was 25 degrees today, and it was bloody boiling. Anyway, on that note, have an absolutely fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world, and I shall see you first thing in the morning.